According to the Death Penalty Information Center, since 1973, over 190 people in the U.S. have been exonerated after being wrongfully sentenced to death. That's not just a statistic. That's nearly 200 innocent lives that could have been ended by the state. The United States should abolish capital punishment because it's costly, flawed, and morally inconsistent. Today, I will show you how the death penalty fails as a deterrent, targets marginalized groups unfairly, and drains the public funds without making us safer. Let's start with one of the most common justifications for the death penalty, the idea that it deters violent crime. But the data says otherwise. According to the Death Penalty Information Center, states without the death penalty consistently have lower murder rates than states that use it. The FBI Uniform Crime Reports show the same exact trend. In fact, the South has the highest number of executions and also the highest murder rates. Why? Because most murders are not carefully planned. They happen in the heat of the moment, often under emotional stress, substance use, or just mental health struggles. The thought of a potential death sentence usually does not even cross their mind. So, if the death penalty doesn't prevent crimes, what is it actually serving? Another point is that it risks executing innocent people. The death penalty is irreversible, and our justice system is not perfect, as many of us know. Since 1973, at least 190 people have been released from death row after being proven innocent. That's nearly 200 lives that came dangerously close to being taken by the state. One of the most powerful examples is Anthony Ray Hinton. He spent 30 years on death row in Alabama for a crime he didn't even commit. All it took to convict him was faulty ballistics reports and inadequate defense. 30 years of his life gone just like that. And had the process moved any faster, he would have been executed before the truth ever came out, if the truth even did come out. No system that can make that kind of mistake should ever have the power to kill. The death penalty isn't just flawed, it's super biased. A study from the University of North Carolina found that people accused of killing white victims are far more likely to receive the death penalty than those who are accused of killing black victims. And black defendants are overrepresented on death row. We also know that people who cannot afford strong legal defense are more likely to receive the death penalty, meaning your life could depend just on how much money you have or the color of your skin. Justice should be fair, but capital punishment amplifies the inequality that already exists in our system that we see every single day. Another point is that it just wastes taxpayers' dollars. You think the death penalty is cheaper than keeping someone in prison for life, but that's not really true. Death penalty cases are incredibly expensive. They involve longer trials, more appeals, more expert witnesses, and years of complex legal process. In California, the state spends about $150 million more each year to maintain the death penalty system compared to life without parole, according to a 2016 study done by Carol Williams, who works for the LA Times. That's money that could go to schools, healthcare, victim support, or a community safety program, things that help prevent crime. Now, some people argue that certain crimes are so horrific that the death penalty is the only appropriate punishment. But life in prison without parole is also permanent, and it eliminates the risk of wrongful execution. It also avoids years of costly appeals, which can drag on for decades and often re-traumatize families involved. Others say death penalty brings justice to the victim's family, but studies show drawn-out legal process of death penalties often delays healing. A life sentence is more immediate, more certain, and less emotionally exhausting. And as someone who could speak from personal experience, unfortunately, my mother unfortunately was a victim, and that legal process took years, and I can't imagine how much longer it would have took if, he actually got the death sentence. It would have been so much more challenging for me and my little brothers, whereas we actually got it all done in a year and a half, thankfully. And, I'm happy now knowing that he's behind bars and not out there. And, I don't have to pay for that. It's really nice to think about in that kind of sense. So, in conclusion, the death penalty is a broken system. It doesn't make us safer. It puts innocent lives at risk. It costs more than what it's worth, and it is applied in ways that reflect the worst parts of our justice system, not the best. If we truly believe in justice, fairness, and the value of a human life, then we must end capital punishment in the United States. Thank you.